right, Dan, we're live. I'm going to tell you the date. It's March 16th, 2023. I'm broadcasting live from my parents' house, my old bedroom. I've got Bobby behind me. And on the right, I think it's right, my right shoulder is a Young Legends trophy that, back, I think that's from like 2008. The reason why I'm sharing all this, though, is I just came from the rink. The boards are done. The benches are up. It's like a historical day. So, are you going to be coming down to see it potentially this weekend?
Me, I'm coming down tomorrow. Yeah. So, my kids have St. Patrick's Day off, so we're gonna go down there for the day or for the night or whatever. So, yeah, that's my plan, is to check out the rink tomorrow.
Awesome. It's really, I can't describe how much of a thrill, a joy. I think I'm at a loss for words to how special it is to get this project where we are. And we're excited to be putting the surface in. So I'm really excited. I can't wait for you to see it. It's cool. It's a special place. The other thing I wanted to follow up from the last podcast with Beth and Ann, there was some conversations through text about the Pro Beach inline hockey, which we actually put on the Facebook page. I just want to say thank you to Corey and Corey Hursk and Beth. Beth texted me first with this video of the Pro Beach hockey. So I'm like, I knew I wasn't crazy, for one. And I really did watch this on ESPN2. And the ramp is in there. And then the next day, Corey texted me and he said, hey, listen, I sent this to Beth. And it was that Pro Beach. So thank you to both of them.
Oh, wow.
They did. So I don't know who found it first. I don't know if Corey found it first or Beth found it first, but either way, like I said, I felt, I'm like, I knew I watched this. So to follow up on this, another thought came into my mind about inline, and it was on ESPN. It was called the Roller. I have to look up my computer. Roller Hockey International. It was a real league. And our friends from Detroit, I'm going to ask you if you've heard of this league. So what they did is it was back in the 90s, 93 to 99 or something along this line. And they had their cup, which was called the Murphy's Cup.
Yes.
And I remember watching that as well on ESPN. So inline hockey has sort of a obviously we're more in the ball hockey realm, but I just remember staying up late watching these games and like feeling, wow, that's pretty cool. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of keep going on that inline spiel. But
We used to play on the other side of town.
Did they really?
Yeah, it's now a place that's closed, but they used to play. It was a big deal.
Big stadium.
Joan Dermers.
I actually covered Roller Hockey International in the first 2 seasons.
There you go. Okay, so it's a
The
real.
LA Blades and the Anaheim Bullfrogs. And I have a story here actually about the finals against Florida. I think it was Orlando.
Okay, that might be on YouTube, by the way.
Equipment manager, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that, because I've like back in the 90s, I played a lot of ice. Everybody knows this now, but roller hockey, ice. I mean, if you ever saw the road that Danny and I grew up on, it's like a hill, and we would skate up and down I don't know if you did that a lot, Danny, but I did, because there was no roller rink in Gloucester. There was no, like there is now. But yeah, it was I used to love watching that stuff, and I'm like, if I never make the NHL, maybe I could, RHI, here I come, but it's no longer existent. So
Robert Picard, who used to play for the Red Wings in St. Louis and Quebec, started the league here.
Awesome. It was cool. Like I said, ESPN did broadcast it. You can see some clips on YouTube. But anyway, other than that, Dan, how's it going? I haven't even checked in with you yet.
Yeah, it's going well. It was funny, talking about how you played a lot of ice hockey. I was talking to my neighbors the other day because, shout out to the Bruins Academy program, basically signed up my girls for the Girls Learn to Play ice hockey, which they provide all the equipment for. I believe they do it for boys as well, but at least right now they're doing it for girls aged, 5 to 10 years old. And you basically pay for the ice time and the certified Bruins coaches, but it's all throughout Massachusetts. And then they provide the retail value of all equipment, sticks, gloves, skates, bag, water bottle, even. So
Amazing.
ship it right to the house, and it was great. And basically the reason I bring it up is because I was talking to two of my neighbors, at the bus stop about, they're doing it out of Hockey Town, and like they just looked at me like I had three heads. Like, why would we know what Hockey Town is? And I'm like,
Right.
why wouldn't you? If you know hockey, you've been
It's all-
to Hockey Town. So talking all
Absolutely.
these rinks and things like that.
With the
man, I
cement
figured
walls, right there, the cement walls for boards on that one side on both sides of those rinks. Yeah. So, yeah, I was impressed. Dan sent me a picture where the girls are already gowned up in the basement. They got the pads on. They're all gowned. I mean, I remember my first time walking around the yard with around the house with all my gear on too, skates and everything. Walking around the carpet. So that's an exciting day for them.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking at the Bruins practice jersey. I'm like, I wish I had one of those now, let alone as a kid.
Right. Absolutely. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward to you seeing the rink though. I know you haven't been there fully yet, so it'll be good, for you to see it. So today, everybody, we have a special guest from Detroit. And it was really kind of cool because they reached out to me directly, which is always preferred. And they're going to fill us in today on what's going on in Detroit. We're going to talk a lot about ball hockey, what they're trying to accomplish, give them the support that they need. So we have Lisa Lakian and Michael. Michael, tell me your last name. Sorry. So they have.
Everybody's supposed to be Sark, so.
So I'm just going to call you Sarge for today
That's
because
fine.
that's
That's
so
what
much
everybody does, yeah.
so, but I've had a chance to talk to Lisa on the phone. It's a joy to talk to. We've kind of connected you guys with USA Ball Hockey a little bit. And a quick side story with Lisa is we were both driving. The Detroit Red Wings were playing the Bruins here, and they went back to back last weekend. The Bruins won the first one, then Detroit beat them. But Lisa's comment was, "I'm going to make you into a Detroit fan," which just made me chuckle inside because I don't know if I could ever like the. I respect the Wings, but I'm not.
She tried to make me one, but yeah, I'm sticking.
You always had my favorite player from the Bruins.
Who's that? Bobby Orr. Yeah, which is he's
Yep.
actually up behind me right now, which is random, but that's actually going to my house at some point. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate having you, really. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the game a little bit and what's going on in Detroit, and let's just start there.
Well, I mean, me personally, I got into the game in I think it was like '92. There was a outdoor league in Garden Grove, California, Orange County. I was watching the Kings broadcast, and they had a segment on it.
Wow.
And so basically, they exploded from like 30 teams to 100 teams after that segment. So it was like at one point there were like 120 teams across two rinks. At first it was just weekends only, and then they were able to get the lights going. So it was basically like 7 days a week. You had like 3 games in the weeknights, and then you had like your weekend was from morning all the way to like 10 p.m. So that's how I started. I played there for a while. I think I was done playing there like around '99, and then I just got like basically playing on and off, and then I started playing again. Here I moved here in 2013 to Michigan. Tried looking for like ball hockey. Really, wasn't much there. So I kind of like put that off. And then like in 18, I decided to like I want to play ball hockey again. So I found this recreational league and started playing. And basically been playing ever since. And now I'm going to be taking over one of their days, which is on Thursdays. In between all that, I partnered up with Empower Play, and we're going to be doing a facility here.
Excellent.
So that's where that stands. Funny thing you mentioned about Roller Hockey International, the inaugural season, the finals were between Anaheim Bullfrogs and I think Orlando something Bear. I just can't recall what the name was. I think Orlando Solar Bears were IHL team, but whichever team they played was an Orlando team. Whatever their name was, I just can't recall.
There's a Tampa Bay Tritons.
Well, whoever Bullfrogs played in the finals that year, that was the inaugural season.
Okay.
I know we were in Florida, but like I said, some things are hazy. So I was
That's quite all right.
So they lose in the finals.
Yeah.
And their equipment manager, I forgot his name. Basically, they kind of like got drunk from their sorrows in the locker room. So the equipment manager goes into one of the public bathrooms, and it's like, I mean, everybody's gone already, and literally just rips out like 5 or 6 toilets. And
Really?
sits in the corner.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, needless to say, like the facility wasn't happy. Basically, the Bullfrogs owner intervened, and he said that he was going to cover all the expenses, so they didn't, go beyond there. But it was just like, and he doesn't remember doing it.
See, so it was a good time, huh? It must have been a good time, Saj. Really. I did look it up. There's an Orlando Jackals that won the Murphy Cup in '96. Does that sound
That was
right?
it.
Okay. All right. There was a Buffalo Stampede. Looked like they were the first. There was a Montreal Roadrunners, New Jersey Rock and Rollers, and then the St. Louis
Buffalo
Vipers.
Stampede, but here they win.
Stampede was '94.
Really, it was that early? Because I guess I didn't start covering until like '96.
Well, I apologize. Yeah, they were Eastern Conference, and then it has a abbreviation that says one cup. So this is Wikipedia. I don't know how reliable Wikipedia is,
Yeah, I just
GPT.
remember distinctly. It was like the 96 was. Well, it was the inaugural season. I just distinctly remember it was Anaheim against the Florida team because Anaheim beat the LA Blades, which were coached by Bobby Holt Jr.
Okay,
Yeah, at in the semis
got it.
that same season. Yeah.
There's
So maybe it wasn't the inaugural season, but I'm pretty sure it was. But my I could be off on that because I think it was like I'm thinking for some reason 95.
95.
But like I said, I could be. I could be wrong.
95. San Jose Rhinos defeat Montreal Roadrunners.
No, definitely not. I mean, that was the Anaheim Bullfrogs.
Anaheim was
That was
96.
96. Then it was 96. Yeah.
Yep.
It's been a while, so
And then 90, and then it looks like they won it in 97, the Murphy Cup. So, like I said, I pulled this up as my own curiosity. So, because again, when we did the podcast with Beth and Ann, they looked at me with like, this guy is so crazy when I described the ramp that was out in California that these guys would skate up. So, like I said,
wasn't that league initially started by Chris McSorley?
I have no idea who it was.
Yeah, in like late 90s, he basically, that was the league that he began. It was like 98, 99 with the ramp and everything else.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
Chris McSorley's league.
Okay, yeah, it was fun to watch.
He was at that time he was still coaching the Las Vegas Thunder of the IHL.
I wouldn't know that. Yeah. So, I mean, you know more about it than I do because, like I said, I was a young kid. I was probably 10 years old watching that Pro Beach late at night because it was, like I said, West Coast time. It was probably like 11.
Yeah.
Wasn't even up that late. But, I wonder what the ratings were on that too. I mean, but it was fun.
0.01.
Yeah. It was fun to watch for sure. So that's how he got in it. So, and Lisa, how did you get into the game a little bit?
Through Michael.
Through Michael.
Because I played ice hockey and I played a little, in college, we didn't have ice. I played floor hockey, but I remember like we were talking one day and he goes, "Hey, do you want to work with me on this project?" And I said, "Sure, why not?"
It's awesome. And you played soccer in college?
Yes.
Okay.
I played varsity then, and then we were allowed to play like an intramural sport, and that was floor hockey.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when it comes to Detroit, I mean, I had mentioned this, Sarge, to Lisa when we chatted. We talked a lot about my dad and I went to a summer tournament in Toronto, and that's when I saw Little Caesars play their select team. I can't recall if we played them or I watched them play, but like we had heard so much about Little Caesars, the team there. And Toronto was an awesome tournament. That was some of the best hockey players I played with. Actually, Jason Spezza played on the Toronto Marlboros that we were playing against. We got our butts kicked, but that's for another day. But what's the, Detroit is known as Hockey Town. What's it like? What's king there? Ice hockey, roller,
Hockey
ball?
rules. The
Ice hockey, definitely.
yeah, I mean, they're the ones that prevailed. Like, I mean, we've had like NBA championships, but everyone, like, we're an original 6 hockey team, so everyone, even if the Tigers would go to the World Series, you still have, everyone gets onto the hockey.
Yeah.
Is it-
What's the, and as far as youth kids in Detroit, are they big
It's
hockey?
huge.
Huge.
It's
Okay.
huge. I mean, there's like, Little Caesars is still huge. They have Bell Tire, they have Honey Baked. There's all these
Honey
different,
Baked, right.
there's all these rinks now that, and they have kids waiting for waiting lists to get on teams.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like AAA junior, I think Detroit, like the greater Detroit area has 4 teams in a AAA junior.
4 teams.
Yeah.
And most cities only have 1.
That's a lot.
So, and yeah, that's just like, I mean, probably within like a 25-mile radius of each other.
Okay. Excellent.
So yeah,
What-
so definitely ice hockey is huge here. I mean, I wish ball hockey would be the same, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, like ball hockey is lagging way behind. And I think it's probably because of such a popularity for ice hockey and the availability of ice hockey here that pretty much is probably like second to none to anywhere else. I mean, maybe in Canada, but in US, definitely the ice is the most available and the cheapest here. I mean, probably like in a, again, in the same 25-mile radius, we have more ice arenas than probably any other US municipality in the country.
That's amazing. So, we before Danny, before you jumped on, we had talked about ice time. So it's been a little while, but ice time here in Massachusetts, I think is anywhere from 200 to 220 an hour. And, Sarge, why don't you tell us a little bit about like the floor time out there versus ice time? Because this just blows me away, really.
Yeah, we only have 2 facilities that are floor facilities basically, and they're pretty much on opposite sides of Greater Detroit area. One on the east side, one on the west side. 150 is a discounted rate. The average rate is $200 an hour
For the floor.
for
Oh,
the
wow.
floor. Yeah,
That's
the league that I'm playing in, we're playing at a city called Livonia Recreational Center, and they're charging 110, but it's because it's a recreational center, and it's really not an actual rink. It's just kind of like a makeshift rink where they put in like 36-inch boards all the way around, but the corners do not extend above 36-inch. So it's kind of like one of those weird
Is there
situations.
fencing on these makeshift
No
boards, or
fencing.
just
Basically, imagine like a gym that has 2 basketball courts, 2 full-size basketball courts, and then you're gonna build 36-inch boards all the way around it, and just add hockey lines to it. Just the goal lines, the crease, and then the face-off dots, and that's about it. And then like one side has a glass wall, and then no benches. You just get doors.
Yeah.
Ironically, one of the teams uses the same door as the scorekeeper. So it's really, like I said, it's kind of like not meant for true hockey competitive rink, but
Sure.
it's the only place at this point that we got, because nobody else is. It's just nothing is available, and roller is basically dominating the other 2 facilities, and because of the price too. So that's why it's like $200 an hour. Some places even quoted us like $400 an hour.
And that's for floor, not ice.
Floor, yeah, it's not
Oh
ice.
my goodness, that's amazing.
The cheapest
Yeah.
ice here, I believe, is one of the arenas. I think it's Redford. They're like $125 an hour at certain times.
That's 1 sheet of ice.
Yeah.
One sheet.
What is the distance between these two floor rinks or whatever you had said? It's
I would say about it's a 20-minute drive, so 20, not 30-minute drive. I would say probably about 20 miles, 15 miles,
Okay.
It's a little more than that.
or 20.
Yeah, it's 20.
So with the roller hockey programs, is it high school, youth, adult? How is that set up?
No, it's just adult.
It's all adult.
Recreational. Yeah, adult recreational. And the other thing is, what I'm noticing is these facilities, instead of just renting it and having people run leagues, are having their in-house leagues. So they're getting much more than $200 an hour for the floor doing it that way.
Okay, what do you mean by in-house? These are adult in-house programs?
Adult in-house programs, yeah. So basically, the facility is manages and operates its own league, and
Okay,
then they charge per player. So
Per
then
player.
I was talking to one of the coordinators, and I think his official position is like the rental manager or rental supervisor. So he said basically when they did the math, when they're running their own league, they're getting upwards of $350 an hour for the rink.
wow, that's amazing.
And that's after the referee expenses.
That's
So,
after referees. Okay, wow. All right. So, and then in comparison, are these guys traveling to it? Where it's
no, it's just
in-house
strictly
or
in-house, like a in-house daily league. So you got your
Okay.
Tuesday league, you got your Thursday league, you know, you got your
Okay.
maybe like Monday, Friday league. But they're pretty much playing, I believe, 6 days a week. They're
6
playing
days?
Sunday through Friday, and I think the only day that they're not playing on the evening is a Saturday.
Interesting. Okay, because I didn't know when you said in-house if they had like in the ball hockey world, we have tournaments that teams will travel to say Pittsburgh.
I'm sure they
Philadelphia.
have it too, but I haven't seen any
Haven't
here.
seen it. Okay.
I don't think I have not heard of any teams from here traveling anywhere, and or them staging tournaments here. Ball hockey, like my team traveled to the Chicago tournament a few years.
You
right
did,
before
okay.
COVID. And then I know a couple of teams traveled to Pittsburgh tournaments.
Okay.
And then recently, I know one of like they basically made like a makeshift team, and they played in Chicago. I think like a couple of months ago.
That's
in that,
awesome.
yeah, Chicago tournament.
How far is Detroit from Chicago?
5 hours.
Give or take.
Oh, it's 5 hours. Okay. So it's not okay. Yeah. I
Pittsburgh's the same.
Pittsburgh.
Well, it depends, you have to cut through, there's a shortcut. Okay.
How far is Detroit from Buffalo?
Around 5.5, 6 hours. If you go through
5.5.
Canada, 5.5, 6 hours. Depends on customs.
Customs. Okay. All right.
If you go through the US, it's about 8 hours.
About 8 hours. Okay. So it's a haul.
Maybe 9, yeah.
The reason why I ask you guys this is because obviously geography I'm not strong, but I might have told Lisa this, but basically, Sarge, I got a chance to go out to the USA Ball Hockey Future Stars events, which is the youth players, the U13s and the U15s, and it's Massachusetts, it's New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York, and they take the kids from the state and they play together, and then they go play in this tournament. It's a 2-day tournament, and it's going back to Buffalo. But Steve Gregory, who is one of the national players for US, he was helping run this tournament, and he goes, it would be really great to be able to have this tournament someday in Detroit. So I didn't know if there was a big distance between that. That's where my mind was going with all this. But I know Detroit is very much a place where Corey Hursk and everybody wants it to get up and running. So it's commendable to you guys. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm in contact with Anthony from NBHL.
Yep,
We're
Anthony's
trying
great
to do it, yeah.
yeah, awesome.
And so yeah, we try to do it, but again, like for the same problems that ball hockey gets in Michigan, we couldn't get the league going this season. People, for some reason, besides just the fact that Florida is more expensive or what have you, the perception for ball hockey in Michigan seems to be that it should be like pickup only, and it should be like completely free or nominal. So like a lot of the players who play ice hockey, they're kind of like we don't even want to mess with it. There's only very few that actually do. So that's not like an anomaly for Detroit. You would figure with such a rich hockey community and such a rich hockey history that basically hockey, all different aspects of it and variations would thrive. But that's definitely not the case. We just got like ice and roller, and like I said, ball hockey is just way below.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just right across the border at Windsor, they have like so many leagues that like 2 teams are playing, in the Livonia League, just because they don't have any spots for them in the Windsor League because it's just so full. So like their travel time is about like 1.5 hours because they have to go to the border.
Through the border. Yeah.
So it makes, like I said, it makes 0 sense. But hopefully once we get the facility going and we build it with the Empower Play guys, things will change. Because already like everybody is telling me like once it's built, they're gonna have tournaments here.
Yeah.
So maybe that's gonna kind of like raise interest and kind of make people realize that ball hockey is not just like some kind of a makeshift sport. It's actually a real sport.
Absolutely. I'm gonna ask my brother this because I had an experience with ball hockey, my first look at it. But Danny, what was your first take on like when we went to Fitchburg? I mean, do you want to talk about like what being an ice hockey guy yourself? Was there like I'm not sure how to word this more. It's like, did you feel like we know it's a different game, but did you feel like you looked down on the sport at all?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I've ever looked down on the sport. I think it's definitely I think it's hard to marry the two in a sense with the direction that hockey is going, where, when we were growing up, you maybe could get away with playing just inside your season. Like me, I was a multi-sport athlete. I got away with playing football right into hockey season. Nowadays, if you're like super serious playing hockey, it might be even harder to even transition in like even consider ball hockey because you might be playing hockey year round. So I think we have a challenge in general of like 80% of our players are, play ice hockey. So if we have a league that crisscrosses at all with their sport, it might actually hurt our numbers. We also have that there is a chance. So there's also that challenge of kind of what Michael had said, where you try to keep it inexpensive, pick up your stick, play. It can help the kids who maybe can't afford ice hockey. But then if you're trying to, bridge the two where you have competitive hockey level talent that then wants to also participate in ball hockey, I've always looked at it as a way that it should augment your off ice training. Sure. And I think that's one way to potentially sell it, because of the ability for that off ice practice with stick handling, and even your endurance really translates well on the ice. So that's kind of the lens I've always looked at it through, in terms of even though the aspects of the game are a little bit different, and even the skill and talent actually almost requires a higher level of skill, that I'm almost not used to because I play defense and things like that. So actually being able to stick handle through kids and stuff like that. So there's a lot of elements, I would say, to it. I think my experience, to kind of get back to your question, was more eye-opening because I wasn't even aware of it. I never played ice hockey and was like, oh, you play street hockey. It was more like I didn't even know there was a world that existed that you could play at a high level, because it's a lot like golf. You can pick it up post your career and play long into, and you can, it's more sustainable than the grit and grind of hockey and stuff. So it has a ton of positives, almost with a lot of like not as many cons in terms of those kinds of things. So that's kind of how I've always looked at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's from my experience, Michael. What you were saying is that as an ice hockey player, the first time I ever saw people playing ball hockey indoor was in Philadelphia. I was in graduate school down there, and people have listened to this podcast, you've heard this story probably a million times, but I was playing roller hockey on a Saturday morning. Someone had invited me, and I literally went out there. I didn't have my equipment. It was all at home, and I didn't have a helmet. So I got a huge helmet. I was pretty small head anyway, but I had to put a towel on my head to make the helmet fit. I looked ridiculous. And then finally I got my helmet the next day, but like, I think they would call me like Turban Boy out there. So it's not been really, not even appropriate in today's world, right? So I was out, and after we got done, it was a great skate. I had a lot of fun. That was actually my first time playing real roller hockey. And then all of a sudden, these people show up. It's co-ed, and they go out there without any rollerblades on, and they're out and they're going to run around. And I'm looking, and I'm like, what exactly is this? And I turned to the guy that had taken me there, and he was like, yeah, this is ball hockey. And I'm like, so you mean they're going to run this full thing? And he's like, yeah, exactly. And I was like, huh, why would they run it? Like it didn't register, but then as I watched it, I could tell that there were some people that could really stick handle. The speed was pretty impressive. And then I went through like this, a little bit of a conflict. I'm like, is this street hockey, or do I need to redefine what I look at as street hockey? And this was long before, guys, we even had the ideas of putting a rink in. I mean, this was years before the rink. So, but I've got a chance to play indoors, and I can tell you, it's a different game. The guys that play this game, the women that play these games, they're really good. And I would never look down. It's an awesome game. And I'm a big believer that, for you guys out in Detroit, I do believe it's a game that can really work your skill set of stick handling, for sure. I mean, I grew up playing on our grandparents' backyard and learning how to stick handle. I spent so much time doing that. So I'm a huge advocate for ice hockey players, doing that transition. It's also a lot of fun to be, anybody can sort of run and play it. So,
Well, yeah, and I think even one aspect, this is kind of a little nuancy or a little bit, you know, I guess on the techie side or something like that. But like, you know, if you're one of the advantages that I've seen is if you're trying to like make your slap shot better, or you're trying to make sure that you have good control, or you're trying to like really get into the technical side of things, sometimes street hockey lends itself as well in different ways to just shooting a puck, because if you go the further back you try to shoot the ball, you'll actually be able to like really compress the ball and see the curvature.
yeah, sure.
Because like, and you'll actually be able to see how, basically what I'm getting at is how poorly how like you would be shooting like the puck, because you can see how bad, how much like spin you put on the ball and generate like these horrific shots that might not look that bad with a hockey puck. You know, so that I find is something that I'll do even in my driveway. It's a fairly long driveway, try to work on long range shots, and it gives you other feedback that's different but then helps augment your hockey. You know, so
Absolutely.
It's a much different technique though, between shooting like at first slap shot, between slap shotting a puck or slap shooting a ball. The technique is like, you know, very different. For the simple reason because, you know, the ball obviously is spherical. So what I noticed is to have the most velocity on your slap shot with a ball, you really have to turn in your wrist. Where with a puck, you can, you know, like do certain things. I mean, with enough practice, you can even like shoot it with your heel, you know, make contact with your heel, you know, to give you a certain spin on it, or, you know, with the tip or with the middle. With the ball, it's only a certain way. Unless you fully turn in your wrist and pretty much kind of shoot with the 3/4 of the front tip, you're not going to get a good shot. So the ball is much more demanding.
yeah, one negative to your point too is like a lot of times kids try to like really flick the ball up, and they like, you know,
that doesn't work either.
they think that they're getting a really high cool shot, and it's like you're actually creating really bad habits when you're trying to like think that you're shooting a high hard slap shot when you're just kind of flicking it, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, unless like you got one of those, you know, tacky max, or like the one that sounds like sandpaper for your stick with the ball, you're really not gonna have any traction on the ball with your blade. So you have to have those to get some traction on the ball. Otherwise, the ball just like pretty much spins off of that, like, you know, without any issue. You know, just like, so it's really like, you know, detrimental unless you know really put some kind of a, you know, one of those two type of things on your blade to keep the ball from, you know, slipping, and kind of at the time of the contact, it adds the grip on the ball, and it gives you certain more control and the ability to put the velocity on the ball. Because with ball, it's again, key is turning your wrist and the velocity.
One of the hardest things for me is just actually, you know, in ice hockey, you have a power stride where you got one hand on the stick and you're pushing the puck in front of you. Just, you know, unless of course you're crossing over into the middle or wherever you're going. It is really challenging just for me to be able to figure out a way to just push the ball down the rink. I mean, it's a new skill for me.
Well, for me, the hardest thing was, I mean, I started playing ice hockey, but because again, when I moved to California, there was like almost no availability for ice hockey unless like I was willing to play like at 5 in the morning or like at you know, midnight. So that's how I got into ball hockey. The biggest thing for me was as a player when I play out is that to move from point A to point B, you actually have to move the whole time.
You have
You
to
cannot just like take 2 strides and then just glide to point B. You actually literally have to take every step from point A to point B.
No glide.
It's much more. It requires much more endurance.
You got it. No glide.
From the goalie perspective, you know, again, same thing. The energy it takes to go to slide from one side to the other is probably like tenfold that it would take in ice. The other thing, obviously, when you have blades, you can kind of like push off much easier from one side to the other. Where we just have shoes, where like sometimes it's a slippery surface, you can't really, you know, push off at the angle, so you kind of have to like plant your other foot like square and then push off. Like the angles are like way different.
I can only imagine with goalie. Sorry, I never played it. I played it against our own players. Danny can tell you these stories. I played it. you know, back when we first started our program, but yeah, it's one position I wouldn't want to be in front of. No. Yeah, I like, you know. So tell us guys a little bit about where you guys are in your project. And then Dan and I are probably very interested in just the dimensions of the rink, things like that. But where are you guys right now?
So right now we are trying to locate the property. And then once we locate the property, you know, purchase the property, then we're gonna start building the facility. So that's where we're at this point. We were close on a couple other properties, but it didn't pan out. So again, like right now, we're actually looking for a property where we can, you know, build, because everything else is pretty much there and ready to go. So as soon as we find the property, as soon as we make a deal on the property, we're pretty much ready to go. The facility is going to be a touring facility, but it's going to be like a multi-sport facility.
Okay.
You know, so basically, we're going to be looking at having 2 rinks with locker rooms, you know, snack shop, the whole thing, pro shop. And then we're gonna have probably like a area for 3 volleyball courts, because volleyball is pretty big here.
Is it? Okay.
And yeah, it's huge, especially for high school level. And they're looking for facilities to rent out. Like just to give you an idea, Saturdays at one of the roller facilities, they convert their roller rink into 3 volleyball courts.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
They kind of set it up that way, where they have like those you know, posts they could put in, like, you know, with those almost like, you know, man covers that they
Yep,
take
yep.
for the volleyball post. So they put those in. So yeah, they convert that. You know, all Saturday is volleyball. Pretty much like all weekdays, they have 3 volleyball courts, and they have a smaller rink that they also convert to volleyball. So just that big rink is for hockey on weekdays, but on Saturday it's volleyball all day.
Volleyball all day. Interesting. Interesting. For my work study job in college, guys, I was the line judge for volleyball.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And
My boy.
based on Empower Play's recommendation, the rinks are gonna be 160 by 75. So kind of like it's okay for ball and it's okay for roller, kind of like in between.
Okay.
Considering that ball is gonna be 5-on-5 and roller is gonna be 4-on-4. So, you know, 4-on-4, 160, 75 should be okay.
160. Okay. So 160 by 75. This is going to be an indoor facility?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And then so 2 rinks can be used for volleyball. You got the works. Do you guys have the design already set up?
Roughly, yeah. We have like a rough sketch that's out.
Awesome. And is Empower the one that's designing it, or are you guys doing all of
I
it?
just kind of like basically put thoughts on paper. Like I kind of like send them just like a basic sketch, like how I see it should be. And they pretty much like, you know, took that and they're gonna make it into an actual
Make it into
rendering with the architecture and everything else. You know, they'll do the hard part. I just gave them the idea. Like, here, this is how I want it to be. This is how I see it. This is how it should be. You know, with the locker rooms being able to interchange between the both rinks, you know, and everything else. So like kind of just like a general.
Awesome.
So we're gonna have, I think, like 9 locker rooms.
That's awesome. Awesome. And then is Beth the one that sort of set this up with Empower? Is that how with Beth?
Yeah,
Or was
I initially talked to Beth, and then Beth set everything up with Kelly, and then we started
Kelly.
talking, and then we just, you know, been taking the next step, and here we are.
Excellent. So Kelly's the one from Canada, right? And then there's another person from New York. Is that right? Or am I
I'm not sure
missing?
Kelly's from Canada. I think Kelly was from
From
Detroit.
California.
Was he from
California?
Detroit?
He was born in Canada, but then he lived in California.
But he lives in California. Okay.
Oregon.
But he has something. He was in Detroit for some kind of connection to Detroit, I think.
That was another one.
Okay, yeah.
Danny, were you on the Empower Play meeting with us? I don't know if you
I
were there.
was not, no.
Empower came around for us kind of really, really late in our process. Like we had already designed the rink. We were already fundraising. We had already talked to the municipality. They came really late in our process, and it wasn't really the right time, if that makes sense.
I mean, obviously, if you're done already.
You know, yeah, it was because I feel like I believe in their vision. I like what they're going to accomplish. I think they have great ideas, and I personally probably would even do a podcast with them just to share their vision too, because, you know, I think they have the right idea. They have some really good ideas. I just I think it's a great thing for you guys. I'm really excited for you. And how's the fundraising going? How you guys raising capital for this? What's that process like?
I'm calling on people for
Cool.
like, I've called on a few hospitals, a few like grocery stores that have the money that they work with the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of
It's-
tough, like I thought of like, I even called some automotive, but the ebb and the flow of the automotive, it's like if they're doing good, they're generous, but like right now, there's so much uncertainty because what's going on in the industry.
And also Empower has a pretty huge Rolodex and
They do.
connections. So like their network is vast, so they're gonna have, obviously, pull in some fundraising from their donors, their usual donors
Excellent.
and all that. And I mean, they have like a lot of relationships even here that I'm kind of like surprised, but they're pretty much solid. So they were able to make some introductions for us.
Excellent. That's excellent. Great. That's
And
great to hear.
considering like Lisa's networking in Detroit, that was kind of like surprising that they was able to put us in touch with somebody that you didn't know yet.
Excellent. How about, and from a standpoint like Dan and I, Young Legends Street Hockey, or now it's going to be Young Legends Ball Hockey moving forward, we're a nonprofit organization. So for you guys, do you have an organizational name now? Is it a for-profit? Is it a non-profit? How does that work?
Right now, it's a for-profit. It's Michigan Total Sports Initiative. We already have like a Facebook page. We're working on a website.
Michigan Coast.
Surprisingly, like our Facebook page has over 5,000 followers already.
It's excellent.
Last time I checked, which was like kind of like mind-boggling because so that shows there's like some interest definitely to a certain degree. Let's hope it turns into participation.
Sure. I mean, that's a good number of people. Wow, that's commendable. So what's the name of the program? Michigan Coast?
Michigan Total Sports Initiative.
Total.
Total.
Got it. Sorry, I don't know.
It's going to be a multi-sports facility, so I figured that would be, the most appropriate name. Obviously, Empower Play is not really like too keen on that, so this is going to be just strictly like a corporate name. They're going to come up with another DBA, just to make it more marketable. Like the facility is probably going to be called Sark's Palace.
Gotcha, I love it. Nice. Okay.
Like to satisfy my ego, I guess a little bit.
Good. Yes. Yeah, you should. Danny and I will tell you this always. I mean, not to tell you guys how to do anything. We're not those type of people. Just stick to your vision. Do what, stick to your vision. That's key in this world. So Dan, did you have any follow-up questions on that? I didn't.
I don't think so. I think that, it sounds, similar to our journey, just further, in the earlier stages and stuff. I think that Empower gives you a lot of what we basically did on our own in terms of getting the actual, like we had architectural drawings done, AutoCAD drawings done. We then converted those into like 3D models. We then had official like, construction level drawings done, which allow us to kind of liaise with, the construction people and things like that. So if you have a team that can help, facilitate all those things, then, that alleviates a ton of the friction to, we've just been fortunate to have a lot of help from even like city council and things like that in terms of, oh, go over here, talk to this person. This guy does all the city level property work. And so use this person. It's definitely, a big process with a lot of moving parts. So any help you can get, the better in terms of as well as, leaning on us for any of our questions. Like Carl said, with a vision, that's somewhere that, he's been very passionate about very specific parts of the project or very specific parts of the rink, all the way down to like the color of the rail cap is something I always bring up and stuff like that, very intricate details. But I think now that it's coming to fruition, that's where you say, oh, really, I'm really glad that we took that extra time and had that extra 10 meetings where we decided what, tile to get or what, my dad probably is even crazier talking about the diameter, the diameter of the fence posts and things like that. I feel like we discussed literally everything. And when you pour your heart and soul into a project, it just makes it that much better once, you start to see, everything, going up and stuff. So,
yeah, for sure. What will the surface be?
Most likely sport court.
Sport court. Okay.
Yeah.
Sport court.
I mean, like I said, yeah, I've seen like all kinds of different stuff, and I think sport court is probably still the most ideal one. The key when I'm noticing it is in maintenance.
Maintenance.
It's almost like, you have to do instead of a Zamboni, you have to do a vacuum or a sweep. Like at the facility that we're playing at now, they for some reason they stopped like doing sweeps, so the surface became incredibly slippery. I mean, it's slippery to the point where it's like I would be in my goalie stance, and my obviously my shoes would just like not hold the grip.
Not hold it.
So,
Wow.
so it
Amazing.
was just like,
Amazing stuff.
yeah. So that gave me an indicator that for the most important thing is that we're not going to have a Zamboni, but to have a good either sweeper or like vacuum cleaner, and that you can ride around and just basically vacuum everything up, because that's key. Like you can't have any dust, because it becomes like so slippery that it could cause serious slips and injuries.
I'd love to see a picture of that model. Sounds like a floor Zamboni or something, just to see.
Yeah. There's, I mean, I looked at this. They're basically just like kind of like vacuum cleaners.
They are.
Kind of like but it's the size of a lawnmower more than obviously than a
Okay.
Zamboni.
Is it the one that has like a squeegee on the back, where it's almost like they use in a grocery store? Sorry for lack of a better.
No, it's there's two versions. So one is like a vacuum cleaner, we're just basically like driving and vacuuming. The other one, it's kind of like it just has like one of those kind of sweepers things, like where you do like the mop sweep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wide, I don't know what to call it. Like it's an attachment to the mop where it's just like it's wide enough where you just like to collect all the dust.
Yeah.
So that one has one of those, so you can just keep on going that way. But I think we're gonna go for the vacuum one, because just
The vacuum one.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. There's something, Danny, that I never even thought about in an indoor rink, right? Never even thought of that. We demoed a couple of different tiles, and sport court was one of them that we looked at, and then we went with a local provider, MS3, which is local to Massachusetts and Leominster. Metaflex, which I believe it might be in Michigan, but with an indoor rink, the tiles can be different. You get a little bit, it's you don't need to have holes in it like we do outside.
Yeah, obviously.
It's cool.
But the holes cause another problem. They don't really cause another problem, but they solve the dust problem because everything goes through.
It goes through. Good point. Fair point.
So same thing, I mean, the initial purpose of the holes is for water, so it doesn't hold water, obviously.
Yep.
Because it's an outdoor rink, but it also does the same for the purpose of all the dust and all the dirt. Everything just goes under, and you don't have the slippery issue.
Yeah. Ah, man, that sounds so exciting, guys. Really, I'm impressed. I'm wishing you well already, and if there's any way we can help out, we will. What about
especially with multiple rinks? I think that's what's really exciting. I mean, we're in a situation where, based on where our rink is going, I don't know if like we'd be able to have multiple rinks, but anytime we've gone to tournaments and you have more than one rink, or even the thinking of hosting a tournament, having multiple rinks really just creates that really fun atmosphere and environment. Leominster has kind of like two regular size rinks and then a smaller 100-foot rink, but just the atmosphere of even the younger kids playing alongside with the older kids, it's just a really cool kind of vibe. So that's
for us. It was more also like financial and mathematics. Basically, it doesn't take much more to operate two rinks than it does one, cost wise. But obviously having two rings is double the revenue. So it might be increases operational cost by 10%, but it doubles your revenue by 100%. That was like the main theory, because it would be very hard just with one ring to generate enough revenue to cover all the expenses. Even though, like I said, we were getting the arena for free and everything else, and we're probably not going to have rent or mortgage, but still, like, there's utilities, there's payrolls and all that. So when I did the math, it basically made sense to have two rings, because the costs are pretty much like, I don't know, maybe an additional 10%, like I said, at most.
Yeah.
But most likely it's closer to 5% additional, but it's double revenue. So it's a no-brainer. But that was the main, decision-making factor for going with two rings. And the side effect of it is we can hold tournaments now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of what you guys were talking about with the roller hockey. If you guys build this rink, do you feel like there's going to be, you might have an influx of roller hockey people coming on saying, "Hey, can we use
for
this?"
sure,
For sure,
for sure, because like the facilities right now, they have a waiting list of over 100 people.
Nice. So there's definitely a demand.
Just trying to get in. So you figure we take 100 from that and 100 from that. That's 20 teams.
Got it.
You know,
Brilliant.
and 20 teams, that's 2 leagues at least.
That's
Right
awesome.
there,
That's
you
awesome.
got that, yeah, so.
Yeah. So when it comes to the ball hockey, then what will be your focus? Will it be both youth and adult? What's sort of the game plan there?
So, definitely youth. I mean, we're going to spread it out pretty evenly, but I definitely believe that we should attract as much youth as possible, as much inner city youth as possible, specifically because we're in Detroit. So just to give you an idea, the greater Detroit area is very disproportionate in terms of like wealth and just like, the levels of living and, etc. So like Detroit's obviously like, struggling economically and it's in a very bad spot. But the cities around it, for the most part, are very well off and thriving. So clearly, like a lot of people in Detroit, the inner city kids cannot afford ice hockey, even at such a lower rates. So my idea is to have one of the, maybe the Red Wings or their foundation to kind of sponsor youth leagues.
Okay.
Where we can bring in all the kids that have zero experience with hockey, and otherwise would not have experience with hockey, from like specifically from Detroit, to participate in hockey for the first time. Maybe they're going to like it, and then maybe at some point we'll be able to partner up with somebody else where they can provide a similar thing for them to transition to ice hockey later.
Awesome. And are you? I mean, Lisa, this was sort of going to kind of ring in earlier. Have you talked at all to the Red Wings, and have they shown any interest in this project? Or
I've talked to a few of the alumni, and they're more into it and they understand it, but they gotta wait till it's being developed and built and.
Gotcha.
And the other thing I also noticed, just kind of like crossed my mind, one of the reasons maybe why ball hockey is not thriving here as it should be, is possibly because a lot of more people here can skate than, let's say, in California. So in California, let's say you're growing up, your hockey caught your attention, but you don't know how to skate, but you want to play, ball hockey is right for you. But here it seems like almost everybody knows how to skate.
Sure.
For the most part.
It's essential when you're little.
Yeah. Well, to that point, I mean, we're not far off from the situation you guys are in. I mean, Massachusetts is predominantly a dominant ice hockey state. Where we live, where we grew up, it's primarily ice hockey, like I said, and I think one of the challenges is that our program has been on a basketball court for 19 years, and now you're going to be playing in a 160 by 80 foot rink. Kids are like, oh man, I have to run that distance. So I think there is going to be, for the ice hockey players specifically, the ones who haven't played in a facility like this, they're going to feel a difference, huge.
Oh, definitely.
And the more, I mean, our sister Candace was up the rink the other day, and her comment, she called me and she goes, that rink is huge. And I'm like, it feels huge, but when you spend more time in it, it starts to not look as big. You know what I mean? It doesn't look as big.
Have you ever played on a full-size rink, ball hockey?
The furthest I played was 185 feet, Sarge. That was awesome. I had a great one.
We played a couple of times. We traveled to Vancouver for a tournament.
Awesome.
So we're used to playing, let's say in California, I think it was like 158, 155. And we had like, several fast guys, like, we're like ridiculously fast, at our level. I mean, we had like some decent guys. A couple of the guys that played in our league played for the LA Blades of the Roller Hockey International. We had the Hull brothers, Bobby Jr. and Bart Hull, play in our league. So, I mean, the talent level was definitely like high. So they make an all-star team and we go to Vancouver. And like first play, dump in, our defenseman like starts, chasing the ball. He's barely halfway there. Two of their guys are already there.
Been there.
Yeah. And we're just like, where did these guys come from? Like, what's going on? Like, I mean, they were so trained on that full-size rink, and they were so fast that it was just like ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they wasn't even like their best team. So that's just to me like, okay, yeah, we really need to like improve, go back to the drawing board.
So it's interesting you guys bring up that roller hockey, because we've been asked, is there going to be roller hockey allowed on our rink? So we don't own our facility. The city owns it, but like I said, we get priority to the rink, and we develop the programs and organizations. So our organization develops those programs, and roller hockey is one of those things that I really enjoy. It. The tile itself has ridges on it to give your footing a little bit. So it's not going to be the greatest rollerblading experience. It's just not. So I've kind of cautioned the city. The city doesn't really want roller hockey because it just adds another level of liability, as you guys can imagine. So I don't know how to answer that question yet. That's sort of an unknown right now, but I do feel like you said, to me, roller hockey is an awesome sport. It's an awesome game. It's a lot of fun, and hearing it so big, it's not really that big here in Massachusetts. Ice is king. Ice is king here right now.
Well, I mean, ice is king too. It's just, I mean, you know, it's big if you look at it from a aspect of 2 facilities having 100 people waiting list. But again, there's only 100 people waiting list. Because there's way more ice hockey facilities, that, you know, it's just supply and demand. So, but there's still much more ice hockey players than, you know, than roller. And I guess I think one of the biggest reasons is like that ball hockey is struggling is, again, because of such a high level ice hockey players that they're just not interested in ball hockey. That's my thought.
Gotcha.
So everybody who has interest in hockey can, you know, skate and is a decent level of a ice hockey player, and because the costs are comparable, or in some cases ice is cheaper. That's what
So right now, how many ball hockey programs are there? Are there any for youth, or is it just one? Is that youth?
We've been trying to start one, but hasn't been. So I think like we're going to be the first youth hockey, youth ball hockey once we.
How many adult programs in Detroit right now?
One.
Just one.
And it's not even like it's just basically almost like a hobby for one guy. So.
Okay. Gotcha.
But you know, I am fortunate that he did it. His name is Trang Longmore. He started doing this, I think in 2017. Before that, he had a program in another facility that closed down. I think it was like My Deck. So, and like from 2013 till 2017, there was no ball hockey in Michigan at all. Like no organized ball hockey. And there might have been pickup games here and there, but no ball hockey. So it kind of revived it. And it's, you know, it's been growing. And again, like right now, even over there's more demand, but there's just not enough hours.
Not enough hours. Okay. And did the NBHL make it out to Detroit yet? Did they start a program? Or
they had a disastrous first season because they kind of like let players do what they, you know, player captains do what they wanted to do instead of just kind of like, you know, being more hands-on.
Yeah.
And, but they didn't know, so they kind of got, they didn't realize it was that messed up. So when this whole thing was happening with NBHL, they asked me to participate, you know, to put in a team. Once I realized what was happening, I said there was no way. There was like one team that basically had like all the top players. Like they had a former Islander draft goalie, and then Blake Vitala, his brother, a couple of guys who plays in the East Coast Hockey League, a current East Coast Hockey League player.
Wow.
And several players, right? And then like the other, so they went 8-0 with their average win was like by 5 goals. And I mean, I saw that, and I don't know why the other teams didn't see it, but I think they just wanted to be, you know, we just want to be in NBHL. We don't care, right? So it was just very disproportionate. They ended up only having 3 teams. And it got to the point where Anthony, once that team obviously won the regional playoffs, and they got to the Miley Cup, he had to bump them to tier 2. Because he's like, there's no way I can let you guys play in tier 3. It's not a tier 3 team.
Okay.
And they lost in the semifinals. So that was very disastrous. And this time around, Anthony, at Joey Delgado's recommendation, asked me to run it, and we tried running it. And there was like, you know, there was a lot of opposition to it. Because like they did not like the extra costs associated with the NBHL. And basically a lot of teams just, you know, did not want to participate because of that. And I'm like, okay, you know, it's very simple. You guys want to participate in the National League, then there's extra cost. If you don't, then don't. I mean, it's just, you cannot try to force a National League to drop its prices just so you want to participate. It doesn't work that way. But again, because of all the kind of like, you know, the bad taste in the mouth from prior year, a lot of players were also weary because, you know, who wants to go and lose every game? and not just lose but get blown out, because it was like so disproportionate that it was just like,
It wasn't. Okay.
And the other thing is that we still could have made it work if that person who had that team would have been able to compromise and say, okay, let's just split up my team, or let me give you a couple of players here and there, or what have you.
What?
Instead, he's like, no, you should recruit.
What year was this, by the way? Was this last year or it was? Okay.
That's
Because don't they have a salary cap or don't they have don't they have that now?
They do, but here is the thing. So they do have a salary cap, but like for tier 3, it's very weird.
It's different.
And like those guys were just like at the border of it. You know what I mean? So like you have a guy who played in East Coast Hockey League 5 years ago. You had a guy who played in East Coast Hockey League now, which should not be eligible, but he went under the radar. So like I said, that's what I'm saying. Like if Anthony was more like, hands-on and kind of like monitoring the rosters, like, okay, wait a minute, who's this guy? Who's this guy?
Sure.
But they literally had like 3 players. So the goalie, then the guy who signed an East Coast Hockey League contract, and another guy who played at East Coast like 3 years ago. So those 3 are definitely not eligible to play in tier 3. And like I said, had the league been like more hands-on, that would have been, probably prevented, and it would have been more, pairing. And
Yeah. Danny and I are playing. We were asked to put a team in over here in Boston. So NBHL Boston tier 3 starts next month in April. We have one preseason. There's some scheduling conflicts, so I actually have to send this out to you, Dan. But what I've noticed is Matt Strybeck, who is our director, he's on the ball. Like he has to keep me in line too, because he knows I have so many things going on that he's like, he needs my team's information. He's very good about making sure that I'm on top of things, which sometimes I'm not, just because there's so much going on. But what I notice is that people might complain about the price, but these guys work really hard to make it successful from
no doubt.
From the standing statistics to the visual effects that they have. Those guys put a lot of time in. So I have nothing but respect for them. Anthony's been on the podcast. Great guy. We've had wonderful conversations, and Danny and I met him at the Outdoor Classic out in Pittsburgh, Mass. And it's like I said, I think you guys got a great opportunity. Of course, there's all hurdles.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at like, okay, so with all the extra costs and fees, it was going to be about $250 per player, and between $230 and $250, depending on how many players they were going to have per team. It was going to be $250. So I mean, $250 for one season of NBHL hockey is, I mean, it's really not a lot. I mean, it's either you can afford it or you cannot. So I don't think there's like anybody that falls into, well, I can afford $150, but I can't afford $250. I mean, it's either yes or no. So it was more like, it wasn't that it was priced out. It was more just people's preference, like, oh, I'm not going to pay that because I shouldn't have to pay that kind of a thing. Which kind of like made me upset, And that we need to change that mindset in Detroit about ball hockey, and that's the biggest challenge. That once we change that, and once we have people understand that it's a recreational sport, it's a separate recreational sport, and it's like every other recreational sport, there are costs, and you have to pay them.
Yeah,
I plan to promote the community too. I want to promote it out into the community.
Absolutely.
Get it, to the public. Public needs to know about it. Just not in the city the rink will be in, but all around it too.
Absolutely.
Detroit is also pretty unique because it's like basically we have like Detroit, and then we have about 60 other small cities all the way around it, which make up the greater Detroit area. So it's almost like every 2 square miles is a different municipality with different rules and different identity, so to speak.
Yeah, I can't speak to this guy because I don't know the rule that well, and I don't know if it's in existence anymore. But Leominster, Mass, where a lot of people say that deck hockey was started through Ray Leclerc of Milik. There's Leominster, and then there's Fitchburg. They're literally they're touching. They border each other. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, by the way. I don't. No. Okay. So long story short, though, their programs are separate except for their cadet program. They're older kids, but they get, 250, 500 kids every fall and spring. They have a large number, but it's crazy because there's 6 rinks in like a 10-mile radius.
Yeah.
But years ago, I believe there was this radius rule, kind of like the old Montreal Canadiens had, where if you where they had these travel ball deck hockey teams, you know, if you lived within that radius, you played for Leominster or things like this.
Oh, okay, okay.
Does that make sense? So for
Yeah.
us in Gloucester, there isn't any there isn't a ball hockey rink close to us with maybe 20 mile, maybe. And by ball hockey rink, I mean like Hockey Town that Danny mentioned over, which is that double rink, literally concrete walls as boards. And then up above it is a roller / street hockey rink. And so for us, what we've been trying to get, you know, our mindset of our board of directors is like, we want to grow our program, not just to our own community, but to the neighboring towns as well, you know, because that would make you get more numbers, more kids getting into the game. So I think that's a great model. I think it's exciting for you guys. I love Danny and I have talked about this offline a lot about potentially someday creating a indoor facility. We've talked about doing it closer between the two. We live kind of far from, you know what I mean?
By the way, I have a question for you guys. So
Yeah.
how many days you guys think you're gonna be operating with the outdoor facility? Because your weather is similar to our weather. That's why, like I said, when we initially was pitching this out as an outdoor, I said there's no way he's gonna fly in Michigan. And I know absolutely there's no way that people would pay to play in the outdoor facility.
Sure. That's a great question. I mean, for us, so in Massachusetts right now, they fall in the ball hockey schedule, which is about April 15th, sometime around that. We're going to be opening up around April 22nd. That's when our rink's opening. So at the city's rink, and then all through the summer, and then in the fall. It's getting milder here in Massachusetts. It doesn't, like, I put up a backyard rink this year. You know, Danny put one up last year. We might get a week worth of skating. So you could play into December. And even Leominster, I think they have a program, a men's league that plays in January and in February. And I don't know if you know,
So as a goalie, my biggest concern would be, is there like an enclosed heated changing room?
The answer is at those facilities there might be, but not us yet. But good.
Yeah, that was because like as a player you can just put a pullover on top or something and just jacket it and raise.
Never even thought of that, my friend.
As a goalie, when you're taking it, yeah, you can't avoid taking the stuff off. So I just can imagine, like, you know, if it's like a 40-degree weather and you know you take your shirt off, ouch. Yeah, that's like very unpleasant.
I never would have thought of that. So,
but you have to go this way.
Exactly. That's a wonderful point. Great point. So that, I hope that answers your question. Is I think it's probably going to be shut down more for January through March and then open up, because those are really the coldest weather months we're having. Although right now, I mean, it was 32 degrees this morning. I had ice on the backyard rink that I'm taking down soon. So this morning when I left my house, but how about women? What's the goal for women and girls in Detroit? Is that a market that you guys are trying to get?
I think, you know, to be honest with you, I think there's probably like a bigger market. Well, it would be like a percentage-wise, a bigger interest by women to play ball hockey for various reasons. There was like a small co-ed league I ran, and then before that, there was a guy named Tom Pickett. He moved back to Massachusetts, league somewhere near Boston area. So he was like a college player, you know, and then basically moved here, got a job with the Big Three, and then he just, you know, hockey was his hobby. So he did like a recreational league on a smaller rink. It was like an 85-foot long rink. It was 3-on-3. It was co-ed. And, you know, it was a lot of women, different levels, you know. I wouldn't say that anybody could, you know, come up with like, you know, to be you know, considered to be skillful, but there was definitely like, you know, that could hang with their own. So I think, yeah, definitely there's definitely room for either women's league or a co-ed league, for sure. Only reason I don't like co-ed is because, like, you know, once you start getting into the rules where like, oh, you know, it has to be like at least one woman on the ice at all times and all that, it kind of becomes like very hard to monitor that. So I prefer it to be like, you know, men's league, women's league, or, you know, co-ed league, but without the restrictions on the co-ed league. Like, you know, it's specifically like, you know, you have a person on your team, you know, she plays whenever she plays, and you know that's because it's very hard to monitor. That's the only reason. Like the last Thursday league I played in, there had a couple of teams that had women on it. One woman had like an amazing slap shot. I mean, I was just like surprised when the first time it was just woof. I'm like, what? You just see the kind of, you know, perception. You think, okay, it's a girl. She's not gonna shoot hard. So you kind of like,
him for saying
so you're kind of like, you know, you're not as ready. And then like next thing, I mean, that thing she just zinged it. Like,
you're lucky you haven't played against me.
Maybe that's why I seen your Snapchat before. I would have anticipated her much harder. I haven't seen a Snapchat from a girl before that was that hard. That's why it's surprising. And that's not gonna happen next time. Now every time
Now you know.
I'm gonna be like, okay, I might be one of those.
Get me my stick ready.
So timeline, what do you guys, what's the goal? When do you want to open this?
We want to open as soon as possible, but the realistic timeline is as soon as we close in on the property and close on the property, Kelly said about 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Oh, that's a quick turnaround. 8 weeks, Dan.
So he says that, so I'm gonna give him 10 weeks. You know, I'm gonna give him 12 weeks, but so basically, let's just say 12 weeks from the time we close on the property, and we can close on the property any day. So hopefully, we're gonna close sooner than later, and at that point, you know, ready to go.
What's the, you don't have to answer this because this is a cast, but what's the total budget you guys are looking at?
You know, basically based on current projections, it's about 800,000,
800,000,
not including the property.
not including the property.
But I anticipate it's probably going to be close to $1 million.
Million.
Because that's how it always is from my experience. Whenever you
Been there.
set something up, you put figures together, then something else comes up, inflation, you know, what have you, supply and demand chain, contractor issues, something here, something there. You always add 20%. So I think
You got
it's
it.
gonna be close to $1 million. Yeah.
You got it. We had that issue too. COVID.
Everybody does.
Inflation. Yeah.
So have you
Okay.
already paid for the boards and the tile and stuff like that in order for that to be ready? Because we had like a 3 or 4 month lead time while they built
No, so basically, I'm not sure how Empower Play does it because that's what they do. That's the ring building is their specialty and that's what they do. So I do not know exactly how they do it. Do they have it in stock already, or do you just have like a fast track to the suppliers, or what have you? So why they say it's going to be so fast? But the ring building part is basically their specialty. So I guess that's what they do.
Yeah, I mean that's an incredible project with, I mean, bathrooms, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
my understanding is obviously like the building part, they're gonna hire somebody out. We're probably gonna assist them with finding local contractors here to build the facility. But I think as far as the ring itself, it's like they already have that basically like patting it down.
they have it down.
Yeah, like bam.
Yeah, I'm curious to know who they're contracting with.
Yeah, me too. But like they seem like very confident that they can like.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You guys, like Danny said, like it's great that you guys have that team. So, here's another question. Financially, I mean, how much money you have to raise and go from there?
Well, I mean, obviously we have to raise the whole million, or 800,000, and then like for the property, I'm going to be putting up my own money to purchase the land.
Purchase it.
Yeah, because we tried to go the other route. We tried to go through the cities, like where we could sign like a multi-year, lease, just like and then we actually thought that we had a deal going on. Because we talked to the business administration person from the city, and she was like all for it. She's like, yeah, this is great, we're gonna go. So she's like, no, next meeting is gonna be with Parks and Recreations, and we're gonna finalize it there, right? So we have a meeting with Parks and Recreation. They're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm like, okay, we're not even gonna pursue it. If it's that, disrupted, and there's no point.
Gotcha.
And I think they also were kind of like against it. They were like, well, we already have an ice rink. I'm like, this is not an ice rink. But yeah, we have an ice rink. We had I'm like, this is not an ice rink. This is completely different. And then they're like, well, what if you die? Who's going to take over?
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, it's I have a company. There's people who are going to be running the company. There's going to be managers. I'm not going to be running this facility like day in and day out. So there's going to be like an issue, right? But it was like a funny and odd question. But their concern was that they did not want to take over the facility. So,
Gotcha.
And like I said, every vibe that I got from that meeting was that they just don't want to do it. They don't want to even engage in it. So I'm like, you know what? There's no point in pursuing it.
Smart play. Yeah. And I lost my question. Dan, did you have any follow-ups to that? Because I've lost the question I had. Sorry.
I mean, you guys are very fortunate to one degree that the city was working with you, every step of the way. Here, like on every project I had, the city, instead of just trying to work with you, it always seems like they're trying to work against you. So, that's going to be one of the issues here too, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think fortunately we kind of had like the years of commitment built up basically with the league operating so consistently for so many years on a public basketball court with basically just like a permit. The city knew our organization and they knew, these guys are always around. And then I think they said, okay, if you guys, they kind of just gave us the freedom to do whatever we want in terms of building what we thought we needed and raising the money. And they basically were kind of giving us the land in order for us to then basically gift everything back to them. And then we kind of have a shared model of us running it, but it's a public facility for people to use it whenever we're not using it and stuff. So it's definitely, there's some challenges in the running of it or making sure that there's some exclusivity for us, but also having it be available for, parents and their kids or people to just go up and use it if we're not using it. So kind of definitely pros and cons, I would say, with like every model. But we definitely, can't thank the city enough in terms of the freedom they gave us. I think that was the biggest Hail Mary shot for me, was like, why would they let us do this even if we wanted to attempt it? But I think they looked at it as, and this is a 20-30-year-old basketball court. We're not really interested in fixing it up or putting the money for it. So we kind of had a little bit more free reign than we realized for that reason, because it was just another capital expense probably for them to redo the basketball court. And there was some friction, I would say, from the, that was the biggest question, is like, you're removing a basketball court. We actually did a large analysis in terms of how many basketball courts there are in the city. Is this one used? We had consulted like the high school basketball coach and or former players about, it's not a very good place that's conducive to basketball and things like that. So there was a lot of groundwork to figure out, like, because we had, the friction was, should it be a multi-purpose facility, and there's a place in Salem, Massachusetts, that's basically doesn't have fencing, has basketball hoops, and then has like the rink around it, but almost nobody utilizes it because it's too much of a hybrid. Like, it's not one, it's not enough of one thing. So that's why we decided to go full force into one, with the opportunity that like you could use it for off ice training, or even like lacrosse or soccer or something. So we're open to a lot of possibilities, but at least for our vision, we wanted it to focus on hockey, because even that basketball model you mentioned, like, can be difficult. The Bruins helped donate money to a town that I live near, Franklin, Massachusetts, and they basically put hockey boards around 2 basketball courts. But then you've got the weird, I think if I remember correctly, it's only basketball courts that are painted. And so, and like, obviously the size is awkward. It's like 100 by like 130 feet. So,
but how do they deal with the hoop?
Well, so the whole thing is like fenced in, and then they have the hoops on the inside of the fence, basically. So it's very strange.
They can get away with this in Livonia is because the hoops, so the ring goes, north and south, and the hoops are east and west, and they're like basically attached to the wall, so they can come down and they can retract. I mean, if they were down, it would be like too low for, you couldn't even, probably like they would interfere. So they just raise them, to the sides, like, so they could stay flat to the walls, about like 14 feet up high. So that's the only way they can get away with it. Something like, if you have a pole.
Well, yeah, that's why they're like
Maybe a
a
little
fix,
ring,
they're almost
it's
like
kinda
a fix
like,
to the fence on the opposite ends, and then you can go the other direction. But it's I mean, it's a strange experience, but but it's also like a way to grow the game. That town has a pretty good, floor hockey, street hockey, YMCA kind of vibe, where like they have an area that's enclosed that's playable. So they like to kind of grow the game, whether it's a regulation size rink. So I think whatever works for what town, and if they get the money from the Bruins, it is a good thing. It's just, that wasn't the model we wanted. We wanted a full rink that, even though it seems like it's catered to adults, we still cater to the youth in terms of our program, first and foremost.
Yeah, sorry, out here in Massachusetts, it's very, very interesting, because you have like the traditional ball hockey people, where you have, legitimately there's Leominster, Fitchburg, South Coast ball hockey, which is down by going towards the Cape. And and then now you're going to have us, but you see different variations of the game. Like, for example, Weymouth, I've reached out to Weymouth. They never, ever responded to me. So, and that's okay. They don't need to, they're running their program, and that's how it goes. So, it is what it is. Right. So I guess my last question for you is, where do you guys see your program in the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, hopefully, we're gonna expand. I mean, it's very hard to say where, but ideally, what I would wanna see is, basically having ball hockey at least 3-4 nights a week. Maybe having roller hockey the rest. Having the facility basically full. From let's say 7 p.m. till midnight, and hopefully having a thriving youth program that's going to be sponsored by Red Wings or one of the other bigger companies here. That actually is going to be like really functional youth programs where it's just going to be constantly like getting new kids in, and kids are going to basically enjoy it, play it, and then hopefully they're going to move on to ice hockey or roller hockey, what have you, or just become good ball hockey players and stay playing ball hockey. That's even better. This way we're not going to have a shortage of ball hockey, in the near future or far future. So yeah, that's the goal. And actually, I think that what needs to be done, because to have a successful ball hockey adult program, you need to have a base that was like a youth program. Like most of the guys that are still playing ball hockey in the league I'm playing in. Started 20, 30 years ago as 50, 60-year-old kids. And they're still playing now. Like I think the average age for this league is about 45. That's what it feels like. I mean, we got the guys who are 68, 62, 64 who are still playing.
Awesome. That's really cool. So what's the best way to get in touch with you guys if people are interested, in the Detroit area or even around the country? What's the best way?
Best way, reach out through our Facebook page, Michigan Total Sports Initiative.
Or you can get a hold of me too.
Or you can get a hold of Lisa.
And go to the loo. Sorry.
Awesome. Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, feel free anytime. I'm available.
Well, he's not talking about people in general. I mean, So I would say the best way would be the site for people who are interested. We respond to all the messages fairly quickly. I do for the most part, or they can get a hold of Lisa directly at her Facebook, and she'll go from there.
And you guys have a Facebook page? You have Instagram?
Yeah.
Instagram too? Okay.
I'm not sure we have Instagram. I know we have Facebook page.
Facebook though? All right, I'm gonna have to.
Instagram, but I think we're gonna go with Instagram. It's just we're still like in such a early stages that we're still getting stuff worked out. Yeah,
that's okay. We're here to support you as much as possible, even if it's just what's it called, moral support is
Yeah.
But
calling and picking your brain.
that's right. That's right. This is like you said, you guys doing a great job. Wish you the best with all this. I did have one last question, of course, with Empower. So once the rink is done and the facility is done, do they just go away, or is this a partnership with?
Pretty much, yeah. That's basically, they just kind of, once they do it, they let you run it, and they just go away.
Off they go.
It's kind of like a notch in their, in their belt, basically.
I like that. I see where you're going there. Okay, all right, cool. That's awesome. Well,
for them to kind of, the more they have developed, I guess the more it serves them in getting better reception at different communities. Like for instance, with the city that I said we had conversations with. I mean, Kelly said we've been doing this for a while. We got this and that, and they kind of I guess open them up just a little bit, but not enough where I think we should have continued anyway.
Gotcha. Well done, guys. Really, this is great stuff. And like I said, I know the ball hockey world is from high ups of Corey Hurst to Steve Gregory. There's a hope that it's going to take off there. So we wish you the best. Dan, I don't know if you had any last minute questions here.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I think that this was a lot of fun. It's always good to hear about more rinks being built, and we'd love to come out when it, at some point when it's done. It would be cool to see.
Definitely.
A Wings game.
Yeah,
yeah. When they're playing the Bruins. The Bruins are in town.
What's the Detroit? Is it still Joe Louis? Is that what it is out there?
No, Little Caesars.
Little Caesars now. See, there it is again.
Yeah. Just to give you guys an idea, I go to the Red Wings game only once a year when they play the Kings.
Is that okay?
And I go to several.
Several. Good.
That's,
Several.
that's my one and only Red Wings game.
That's the one. Again, Little Caesars comes up. Our parents love Little Caesars. Is that in Maine? Is it in Maine that they go to?
Yeah, on the way.
I'm on the right
there,
place.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they love it. My parents have a place up in Maine on a lake, and every time they go there, they go up on a Friday evening. Where do they go? They go to Little Caesars Pizza in Scarborough, Maine, or Portland, Maine. And I shouldn't say this to all Detroit people. I'm not a big fan of it, of that one specifically. It could be much better if I was in Detroit. So I don't want to, this is a franchise model, but
Well, Carl's really picky about the.
I mean,
There's
Anyway,
there's other pizza places.
Well, my
here.
opinion of Little Caesars is like it's basically McDonald's of pizzas.
okay, there you go. Okay, all right. So
I'll
yeah,
take you to. We'll take. You
I
to
think it's
place.
the only place where you can go and get a whole pizza that's already made in a hot box without actually waiting for a pizza. So I don't think any other place does that. You say, oh, what do we have made? Oh, we have pepperoni. Okay, I'll take it.
Dan, maybe we could do a pizza review in Detroit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bar
like
stool.
like Barstool does,
Yeah.
but not taking their idea. Yeah, we'd love to get out there at some point. So thank you, Sarge. It's great chatting you. It's great to meet you guys. Lisa, you have my number. Call me anytime. We wish you the best. Really great stuff. Really, and thanks for joining us today. So Danny, to wrap up, we got a busy couple weeks coming up, but I think we've got NBHL Boston coming on with Dave Norton, and Matt Strybeck coming on next. So we're going to do a preview of our league that we're going to be playing. So I don't know how you feel about that. You excited? You ready?
Am I ready for what, the podcast or the league, or both, I guess?
Let's say both. 'Cause, I don't know how I feel about it. Right now.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm ready, in the ball hockey mindset just yet. Anytime we've gotten those touches of warmer weather around here, because it'll snow one day, it'll be 60 the next day. So,
Exactly.
we got, when it was really nice before this nor'easter, which didn't even hit me, but I think, hit you a little bit more.
It did.
Before that, we had the net out front, and, actually we put a net out of the driveway, and there was a bunch of kids playing over. Me and Ty were shooting around a little bit. He likes to shoot at the street, as opposed to the net. But then later on, after we were all wrapped up, there was a mother came to pick up two of the girls. She drove right over the net.
Oh man,
Not the hockey net, but the one that's kind of visible because it's
Okay.
at the end of the driveway. So fortunately, it just it's only tie wrapped on one side, so I was able to.
what net is that?
So it's
Mylar?
real. I don't know if you've ever even seen it, but it's connected to my vinyl fence, and then it's like 20. It's a 25-foot retractable fence, and so it just pulls out.
Oh, I
and it
didn't know
goes
that.
right into a tube in the
I
ground.
haven't
It's
seen it yet.
amazing. It's worth every penny because the kids can do, their scooters or their big wheel bikes, or we play hockey and Tyler doesn't just hit it straight into the street or whatever. But it is like very like see-through. It's almost like that deer netting.
Oh goodness,
A
yeah.
little bit better quality. But then when you pick it up and it retracts right to the other side, but basically when she ran it over, it just pulled it off of the fence. So fortunately nothing really broke. I just have to redo the tie wraps.
So that's what he likes shooting into.
For some reason, yeah,
Okay.
he likes to like stop it from going in the net, turn around and fire it that way.
He's a character. He's a
But
character.
yeah, essentially, once we kind of get more into the swing, because I feel like it takes a few weeks to kind of get your stick handling back, things like that. I mean, I focus so much on the kids during the winter with skating and stuff that I haven't done a ton. And in terms of the podcast, yeah, I'm excited for that because we'll get more familiar with the other teams involved.
Good idea. Yeah.
And basically the game plan and things like that. So
Yeah, I was thinking maybe even inviting Jose or Steve on that, see if they want to come on too, just to get a
Yeah.
little get their side of it, but with permission, of course, from Matt and Dave as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I have a lot to do because we all have to get USA ball hockey registrations and things like that. So there's things that I need to get out to you guys to do, but that'll be next time. So again, thank you to Sarge and Lisa. Wonderful time today learning about Detroit. wish them the best. And until next time, we'll see you later on the Street Hockey Life. And I'll talk to you later, Dan.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Let's play.